Think about the last time you bought something you didn't plan to buy. Maybe it was a snack at the checkout line. Maybe it was a product you saw on your phone at midnight. Maybe it was something on sale that you didn't actually need, but the price felt too good to ignore. You bought it, and for a brief moment it felt right. That moment is not an accident. It is not a weakness. It is not a lack of discipline. It is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, and that is the uncomfortable truth we need to talk about. Because if you don't understand why your brain spends money before you consciously decide to, you will keep repeating the same financial patterns no matter how many budgets you create, no matter how many promises you make to yourself at the beginning of the month. Let's start at the root. Your brain is not a financial planning machine. It is a survival machine. For most of human history, the ability to act fast, to grab food when it was available, to respond to a threat before thinking it through, was the difference between life and death. That fast-acting system is still inside you, and in the modern world, it gets triggered not by predators, but by discount banners, limited time offers, and the seamless experience of tapping a screen to make a purchase. The impulse to spend is not random. It follows a very predictable internal process. First, there is a trigger, something you see, hear, or feel. Then your brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. This dopamine surge happens before you buy anything. It happens at the moment you anticipate the purchase. That is key. The reward your brain is chasing is not the object. It is the feeling of possibility, the feeling that something good is about to happen. That is why window shopping is never really just window shopping. That is why browsing an online store when you are bored rarely ends without something in the cart. Your brain is actively seeking that dopamine hit, and your wallet pays the price. Now here is where it gets more complicated. Your brain also has a slower, more rational system, the part of you that calculates, weighs options, considers the future, and makes deliberate decisions. Scientists often refer to these two systems as fast thinking and slow thinking. The problem is that in most daily situations, the fast system wins before the slow one even wakes up. By the time your rational mind asks, "Do I really need this?" the emotional decision has often already been made. You are no longer evaluating, you are justifying. This is not a personal failure, it is a design feature, but understanding it changes everything. Retail environments, physical and digital, are engineered around this exact vulnerability. The placement of products at eye level, the use of warm lighting near premium items, the countdown timers on e-commerce pages, the only two left in stock message, the free shipping threshold that pushes you to add just one more item to qualify. Every single one of these elements is built to activate your fast system and bypass your slow one. You are not shopping in a neutral environment. You are operating inside a machine that was designed to make you spend before you think. And this machine is getting more sophisticated every year. When you scroll through social media, you are not just consuming content. You are being exposed to a constant stream of aspirational images, lifestyle signals, and targeted advertisements that are calibrated to your past behavior, your demographics, and your emotional patterns. The algorithm knows when you are more likely to feel inadequate, bored, or restless, and it serves you content accordingly. The line between entertainment and commercial influence has almost completely dissolved. Most people who struggle with impulsive spending don't have a discipline problem. They have an awareness problem. They don't realize how deeply their spending habits are shaped by external systems rather than internal choices. They blame themselves when the budget fails, when the real issue is that they were never given a fair chance to make a conscious decision in the first place. So what does unconscious spending actually cost? Let's think about it this way. Imagine you make a small impulsive purchase 3 times a week, something modest, a snack, a digital purchase, a small item you saw and grabbed. Let's say it averages around $10 each time. That is $30 a week, $120 a month, nearly $1,500 a year. Spent without a clear decision, spent without a plan, spent in ways you probably couldn't even recall 2 months later. Now multiply that by 5 years. Now think about what that money could have done if it had been directed with intention. This is not about guilt, it is about visibility. The problem with impulse spending is not just the individual purchase, it is the cumulative erosion of your financial capacity over time. Slow, invisible, and almost impossible to track unless you are deliberately watching for it. And there is a deeper cost beyond the money itself. Every time you spend impulsively and then regret it, you reinforce a narrative about yourself, that you are someone who cannot control your finances, that you are undisciplined, that you always end up in the same place. This narrative becomes a self-fulfilling pattern. The shame does not motivate change. It actually makes the problem worse because emotional distress is one of the most powerful triggers for impulsive spending in the first place. You feel bad about money, so you seek comfort. Comfort often involves spending. Spending creates new financial stress. The cycle continues. Breaking this cycle does not require becoming a different person. It requires building systems that give your slow, rational mind a chance to participate in the decision. One of the most effective and underestimated strategies is the waiting period. Before any unplanned purchase above a certain value, let's say anything that is not food or a clear necessity, you impose a delay. 24 hours for smaller items. 72 hours for anything significant. This pause is not about restriction. It is about allowing your fast brain to cool down so your rational brain can evaluate whether the purchase actually aligns with your priorities. In most cases, after the waiting period, the desire fades. The emotional urgency disappears, and you realize that what felt like a need in that moment was just a feeling passing through, not a genuine priority. Another powerful practice is environment design. Instead of relying on willpower in the moment, which is exhausting and unreliable, you restructure your environment to reduce the frequency of triggers. Unsubscribe from promotional emails. Remove saved credit card information from shopping apps. Delete retail apps from your phone's home screen. Set a specific limited time for online shopping and do it only from a list. These are not punishments. They are structural adjustments that shift the default from impulsive to intentional. There is also the practice of connecting each purchase decision to something larger. When you are tempted to buy something unplanned, the most grounding question is not, "Can I afford this?" Because in most cases, the answer is technically yes. The better question is this where I actually want my money to go? That question requires you to have an answer. It requires you to know where you do want your money to go, which means having goals, not vague goals. Specific, concrete, emotionally meaningful goals that make the unplanned purchase feel like what it actually is. A small trade against something you care about. This is where most financial advice skips a critical step. People are told to budget, to save, to invest, but they are rarely helped to clearly define what they are working toward. Without that clarity, every spending temptation operates in a vacuum. There is nothing to weigh it against. The impulse wins by default, not because you are weak, but because there was no counterweight. If you don't know where you want to go, every road feels equally valid. Here is something worth sitting with. The most financially stable people are not necessarily the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who have made their financial decisions more conscious than automatic. They are not perfect. They have impulses too, but they have built their lives in a way that puts a layer of intention between the trigger and the action. That gap between stimulus and response is where financial freedom actually lives. Most of us were never taught this. We were taught to earn, to spend, and to save whatever was left. We were not taught that spending is largely a psychological event, not a logical one. We were not taught that the environment shapes the decision before the mind even engages. We were not told that the financial system around us profits from our impulsivity and has invested heavily in maintaining it. That knowledge doesn't make you a victim. It makes you someone who can finally play the game differently. If this conversation is landing somewhere real for you, Mind of Value exists for exactly this reason. Not to sell you a formula, but to help you see the patterns clearly. Because the moment you see them, they lose their power over you. The real shift in your financial life will not come from finding a new income source or the perfect investment. It will come from the moment you stop reacting and start deciding. From the moment you realize that your money goes where your attention is not, and you choose to pay attention. Your brain is not your enemy. But left on autopilot, it will spend your future one small impulse at a time. The question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you are willing to stop pretending the spending was ever really a choice.